Hey guys, welcome to excelfornoobs.com. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create a Gantt chart using Microsoft Excel 2010. If you don't know what a Gantt chart is, basically a Gantt chart is a chart that shows the time frame of a project broken down by individual task, also showing the time frame of each individual task. So before we can even create our Gantt chart, we need to enter in our data into Excel. Now this is beyond just a basic Gantt chart, which I also have a tutorial for. In this Gantt chart, I've added days completed and days remaining, which you can see I don't have any data in here yet, but we will get to that. The reason I added those is this is going to be an automated Gantt chart that shows the progress of the project. So this Gantt chart will always be automatically updated according to the date. Okay, so you can see here I have my task column. I've entered in my task 1 through task 8. I have my start dates. This is the date that each task of the project is to start. The days to complete the task. So for task 1, it will take 13 days to complete the task. Task 8, it's going to take 15 days to complete that task. And then here we have days completed. This is where it gets complicated. It's somewhat, I guess it's kind of easy to understand, but somewhat difficult to explain. And then days remaining, that's how many days we have that each task has remaining. Okay, so basically the way that I made this Gantt chart automated is by using the today function and the nested if function. So first I'll just show you what the today function is. What the today function is it's a function that basically always calculates the current day. So I will just hit or enter equals today, open and close parentheses, and there you can see that the current date is June 7th, 2013. Okay, so that's where that's what makes this is going to make this this Gantt chart automated. Okay, there's some problems, and I'm going to show you where I started coming up with the idea to make this automated. Basically, as I say today, basically if you were to subtract the start date from the current day, that would give you the amount of day. Your result would be the amount of days in between the start date here and the current date. So I'll show you what I mean. Equals. Actually, let me do it one where we're actually in the days. Okay, so we'll do it for this task 3, because it started on June 3rd and it lasts 8 days. So we're kind of in that current time frame. Equals today minus June 3rd. It's going to show up as a date format. I go here, I'm going to change that to a general format, and that'll give us our result of 4 days. So it's June 7th. It's been 4 days since June 3rd. So 4 days have been completed. So that works out for that particular task. It only works out because we are currently in that time frame. But as the chart gets updated, there's going to be problems. Not even as it gets updated, there'll be problems for certain tasks down here where the date hasn't even arrived yet. And I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to drag this formula down, today minus the start date, using autofill, and you can see that we're getting negative values. We can't have negative days completed. Also, if I drag it up for jobs that have already been completed, you can see that I get values that are greater than the total number of days it takes to even complete the task. So that's a problem too. That's where I had to use the if function, and I had to use the nested if function. I had to use that because I had to not only solve a problem of the task that we have already completed, I also had to use the nested if function to solve the problem for the task that we haven't even started. Okay. So let me click on the formula here. And I'm going to open up the function arguments box so you can see what I'm talking about. So here's our function arguments box. The if function, you already know what the today function is. The if function, basically it runs a test, and if that test is true, I enter in a value here for the value of true, and the value of true will be the result. However, if this test is false, then the value that I enter in here will be the value that will appear if false. So I've said, basically, for my logical test, I said if today minus the start date, which is in cell B2, is greater than the total number of days it takes to complete the project, which is cell C2, if it's greater than, then my result will simply equal the total number of days it takes to complete the task, not the number of days it's been since the start date. However, if it's false, if today minus the start date is not greater than the total number of days completed, my value will be this value if false. And this is where I entered in another if function. So it's a nested if function because there's an if function inside of the if function. And that is, this one is going to solve the values for, solve the problem of negative values. Here, if it's false, it's going to run this function, and that says if today is less than 0, my value will simply be 0, not a negative number. 0 days have been completed, but not negative. However, if my value is greater than 0, then it's going to be today minus the start date. So what it does is it runs a test if today minus the start date is greater than the total number of days completed, then it'll simply equal the days completed, all is well. However, if that's false, it's going to resort down to this if function, which is if today, and I need to fix this, if today minus the start date is less than 0, then my value will simply be 0. However, if it's not less than 0, then it will be today minus the start date. Click OK. Drag that formula down, and you can see that we don't have any numbers that are greater, and we don't have any numbers that are less than 0. And we have our problem solved. Total number of days completed is calculated. Days remaining is easy compared to that. All it is days completed minus days remaining. And there we have our days completed. Alright, let me go ahead and clear this out. Okay, so hopefully you understand that. If not, you're just going to have to work with it, and eventually it's just going to click and you're going to understand it conceptually. Probably if you go over this a few times, you'll get it. So let's go ahead and get started making our Gantt chart. Now that we have all of our data that we need, we're going to click the Insert button, and right here is our Insert tab. In the Charts group, we're going to click on the bar chart, and we're going to select a stacked bar chart. You can select any one you want as long as it's stacked. So right here I'm going to select the stacked 3D bar chart. Okay, and then you can see that a blank chart area has appeared. Right click on the blank chart area. Actually, before I even do that, let's move it out of the way of our data. so we can see what we're doing and resize it.